Well, joining us now to take us to Hollywood is Rick Dack. He's an archaeological researcher and founder of and director of AD Communications. And you can find out more about his organization by going to his website, defendingthebible.com. And much of what we talk about today will be reiterated on that website. So definitely plan to go there and read about it and read more than probably we'll be able to even get into. Hey, Rick, it's good to have you on today.
Thanks, Joyce.
Now, in Hollywood versus the Bible, are you saying that they, Hollywood, are misrepresenting, even distorting Bible truths and stories?
Oh, absolutely. I don't think that there's any question at all about that. I think my biggest problem is that you only get one side of the issue, only one perspective. And a lot of these documentaries, films, TV series, stuff that's on CBS, ABC, NBC, Learning Channel, Discovery Channel, History Channel, they're only giving you one side. I have no problem with the other side giving their perspective, but I'd like to see a balance.
Well, now, I'd like to have some illustrations, because I know you've studied this extensively, and I think the people, once they hear what you're talking about, they'll say, I've been suspicious about some of these things. So give us some ideas of what it looks like.
Well, like on the Discovery Channel's Noah's Ark, The True Story. Well, by the way, the title itself is even deceptive. They said that Noah was a king who sold beer and animals, but was not permitted to return home after the flood due to debts. What, did he forget to pay his Visa bill or what?
Well, now, where did they get this business of
I don't know. They don't tell you. That's part of the problem.
And that is part of the reason to have a red flag go up when they don't tell you, right?
Absolutely. They also had this one scene in the same show where they show Noah's Ark on this nice, calm, placid lake, okay? Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, the Ark starts to break apart. They're trying to say that the Ark was not seaworthy, okay? The only problem with that is if the Ark wasn't seaworthy, how was it floating on a nice, placid lake? Would it have gone down in the deluge?
Okay, now that was very perceptive on your part.
Doesn't that seem to make sense?
Yeah, exactly. Now, my question is, do we happen to know their thinking as to why they even attempt to do these stories? Because to me, almost, if they're not going to present the truth, then they have an agenda here.
Sure, they're trying to turn the Bible into myth, basically. They're trying to take it out of its context of being historical, of being reliable, and trying to call things into question, and they're hoping and trusting that the Christian church has no ability, has no literacy concerning history, concerning archaeology, and what true history says concerning biblical evidences. Mm-hmm.
Now, I know there have been a lot of shows, it seems in the last few years, taking on the topic of Jesus. Mm-hmm. Jesus of Nazareth often is how it's portrayed. Mm-hmm. Not Jesus, the Son of God. That would be going a little too far. And you say even in those there is a problem, right?
Absolutely. Let's start.
And of course, we've seen them, quite honestly. But I'd love to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, at the very beginning of Jesus' life, they said, first of all, there was no virgin birth on Jesus, Holy Child, and A&E. And oh, by the way, be very careful over Easter and over Christmas because they play these shows continuously in a marathon.
Okay.
So be very careful of that. They said that Jesus was the son of a Roman by the name of Pantera, and there's no evidence for that. They say that Jesus was in love with both Mary Magdalene and Mary, sister of Martha, and Jesus abused his power sexually with the women.
Oh, my goodness, yes.
And the real, on the Discovery Channel, the real Mary Magdalene, and also on the movie called Jesus that was on CBS a few years ago. And pertaining to the resurrection, they say that the people that saw Jesus alive post-resurrection were only seeing a vision, a normal part of the grieving process. Jesus did not appear to people risen.
Okay. Well, and I look at a lot of these things and I think it's like they make a deliberate effort to look at what Christianity is all about. Right. And then they think, how can we present it in the totally opposite direction?
Absolutely. Absolutely. They also say that Jesus' body may have been eaten by wild dogs. John Dominic Crossan, the Jesus Seminar person, I'm sure you've heard of the Jesus Seminar before, he says that. And there is no rebuttal. There is no other perspective. And I think that's what the major problem is.
Now, you've talked about Hollywood versus the Bible, but Hollywood is also versus and contrary to Christianity and Christians.
Oh, absolutely.
How even Christians are portrayed in movies, and I know this isn't necessarily what you plan to address, but...
No, we can talk about it. I have a good example.
It came to my mind. Yeah, please give us one, because I know usually the choirs are hokey, and the church services are stupid.
Sure.
And, and invariably they're singing these corny hymns in very uncreative ways, which is so unchurch-like these days. But what's your illustration?
Well, to get out of the Bible just briefly, the ancient history part of it, there's a show on HBO called Deadwood. And the show is horrendous. I mean, I'm a big fan of the Old West. I love the Old West and Hickok and Calamity Jane and all that stuff. But the show is horrible. First of all, it's terribly vulgar. You can't even, there is more expletives in this than true dialogue in this movie. And from a Christian perspective, there is a guy by the name of Preacher Smith who is on this show. And there actually was a Preacher Smith. If you go to Deadwood, you can see his grave near Wild Bill Hickok's grave. Mm-hmm. And he was highly regarded by the town. People were actually in saloons, and the actual Preacher Smith would go in, and people would literally stop in their tracks, and he would pray in the saloons. And people would just stop dead. There was that much of power of God. But the Preacher Smith that's portrayed in Deadwood is kind of a squirmy, slimy, kind of thin, unsure,
hypocrite.
Kind of a Woody Allen-esque kind of unsure person. When the actual Preacher Smith was a very, very strong and highly anointed individual.
That's interesting because either they are very hokey and goofy people,
right,
or they're hypocritical in their stand.
Exactly. And people also have to be very careful of the animated series that are out there, like South Park and The Family Guy and The Simpsons.
Well, South Park, you need to be careful of for more reasons than that. I mean,
exactly.
Don't even go there, you know. But, okay, now, with the time we have remaining, I think we need to go. We've established, and I'm sure everybody is saying, I've sensed it, I've recognized a few of the points, didn't see as many as you did, Rick, but this is impressive. There is a battle going on. Now, the question is, though, how do we protect ourselves? How do we begin to recognize and deal with this and not be drawn in on some of this garbage and lies that are being portrayed as truths from the Bible?
Well, first of all, don't panic.
Okay.
Because some have.
Take a deep breath.
Exactly. Read the Bible story for yourself. Question it for yourself. Take a look at what the Scripture actually says.
Okay, good point. Noah's Ark. Okay, you sat down with the kids, watched the Discovery Channel, which is supposed to be clean and innocent and wonderful and edifying, and Noah's Ark. Let's watch it, kids. And then all of a sudden you sit there, this isn't what we read in the Bible, so let's go back to the Bible afterwards. Let's continue to watch it. But now, kids, let's sit around and let's see what God's Word says.
Absolutely.
And that would make for a great family discussion,
That's
wouldn't
the
it?
standard.
Okay, very good. What else?
Research the background of those making the claims, whether it's an actor or a writer or an interviewee, whoever it would be, whether they're from a seminary or whatever. Just because they have, some initials in front of their name or behind their name, or they say they're from a seminary, doesn't necessarily believe the Bible the way Christians believe the Bible.
Good point.
Be very careful of that. Do the documentary producers have an agenda? Are the same guests featured on a regular basis like John Dominic Crossan, David Wolpe, Carol Fontaine, people like that, who do not have a literal interpretation of the Bible?
Okay.
Listen and analyze what the narrator is saying. What is being said? A common technique with a lot of these programs are phrases such as, most scholars believe, many scholars believe. Who are these scholars? Please tell us. Show us who these people are.
Cite your sources, right?
Exactly. Also, be very careful. There's a number of documentaries out there where they have 45 minutes and 10 minutes. And what I mean by that is typically these documentaries use teasers for the first 45 minutes of the program to get people through the commercials. The last 10 minutes, they attack the Bible.
Okay.
There are some documentaries that do that.
Now, you had a point here that I have your list in front of me, so I noticed one that I really liked. Did the film or documentary present both sides of the topic equally?
Absolutely.
And I think that's something to watch for as well. Now, regarding Noah's Ark, did they also say, well, but there are some people out there that believe that Noah had animals on the ark of each kind. You know what I'm saying? So they didn't present both sides of the argument.
No, they did not.
Okay.
You know, the problem is that, when you have someone who says, like, biblical historian underneath their name when you watch the film or the documentary, they say biblical historian, but then you've got the biblical historian saying, well, we aren't even really quite sure if there even was an ark up there, or even if, it's terrible. There's only one side presented.
Okay, and quite honestly, I do not object to hearing about, you brought up the resurrection.
Sure.
And the various theories that are out there regarding it. To me, I find that of most interest. And it helps me understand the people that I'm working with, not necessarily here at KKMS, but rubbing shoulders with out and about, that they may be thinking this way, and I need to know what are some of the pervasive thoughts regarding things that I hold dear, and not just assume that everybody realizes what the facts are and they've received it or rejected it. So in that regard, I don't mind
not at all.
them exploring these things.
But let's hear both perspectives. Let's get some conservatives out there.
Good point.
On these programs.
Well, listen, Rick, you've done great things here, and I knew we were just going to be able to scratch the surface. And what I want the folks to do is go to your website, and all of these guidelines for protection, I might say, regarding Hollywood versus the Bible are on Rick Dack's website. And the website is defendingthebible.com.
And I'd love to come and speak at a church or school if they are interested.
And how you can contact Rick is on that website as well. And if you don't get to the website, you can always call me. I got his number, okay? Hey, Rick, it's been good to have you, my friend.
Thanks, Joyce.
Thank you for alerting us to something that we knew was there, but maybe we didn't realize to such magnitude as you have investigated. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Rick Dack with AD Communications. Well, when we return, Christians being persecuted for sharing their faith. As we anticipate the National Day of Prayer for the Persecuted Church,